Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, a warm welcome to our webinar this afternoon. This is strange times. I'm apparently speaking to a few hundreds people, but I am not seeing anyone from the audience directly. So this actually describes the type of digital disruption that we are able to enjoy, in the sense that despite the disruption brought about by COVID-19, technology actually is enabling us to still connect with one another, despite lack of closer, more intimate interaction. Now, as what Victor has shared, my topic today is talking about digitalizing the seniors. Is it a boon or bane for senior citizens' well-being? Now, two of the mega trends that you see in today's society is the rapid digital transformation of the society. And at the same time, we are also seeing a rapidly aging population. Now, these two mega trends does not come across as natural bedfellows. The key concern is that among the population, senior citizens are often the least digitally savvy or digitally enabled. But yet, as what we are seeing now, digital transformation is bringing about a lot of enablement to the world that we are seeing. Actually, this coming together of the trends have motivated a group of colleagues and me in SUSS to embark on a study on what affect the adoption of technology among citizens, senior citizens in Singapore. This was conducted a few years ago, and we managed to study more than 1,000 senior citizens through interviews, focus group, as well as a survey. And we were informed by this Bourdieu's practice theory. Now, what we found is that there are a few dimensions that affect seniors' adoption of technology. First and foremost is the economic dimension. By economic, we refer to having the financial resources to afford technology. Being mindful that the senior citizens, not all of them are still gainfully employed, so they may not be financially independent. The other dimension that we discover is the social dimension. By social dimension, it can refer to the familiar supports, which means the support from the family members. As I mentioned, if a senior citizens may not be financially independent, they may actually rely on their family members to support them financially. And that actually allows them to buy or to afford either a smartphone or even a data plan access. Beyond allowing them to have the finances, right, to get access to technology, familiar support or social support also come in the form of helping the senior citizens to pick up or to learn how to use technology, effectively picking up digital skill sets. And also the other dimension that we realized that there's another perspective to social dimension, which is actually the norms among the social network. Most of us who use social media, we realize that we follow people that we know or we like. So you realize that for the senior citizens among the social group, not all of them may be digitally savvy, and thus they may not have friends that they will want to link up with or to follow. So there needs to be some form of social norm, right, that enable their adoption or to motivate their adoption of technology. A third dimension that we discover is the cultural dimension. You realize that by and large in Singapore, most of the online content are in the English language. But yet among our senior citizens, not all of them are necessarily fluent in English. Let alone we do have a population among the senior citizens who are illiterate. So a lot of the contents that are online, while may be attractive to them, they would not be able to access them. Now, even in terms of content, you realize that a lot of content are created for the younger population. Very rare do we come across content that are curated especially for the senior citizens. So that was conducted a few years ago. What is happening now, as we have seen with COVID-19, is that it has accelerated the speed as well as the magnitude of digital transformation. Right? In the words of someone, it says that this is digital transformation on steroids. As what Prof Chong has also related, many aspects of our life has been transformed digitally. Instead of going to the shopping center or to the supermarket, Some of us are doing our grocery shoppings or other shoppings online. At the university, right, instead of coming to the school or the university to learn, we are learning online. And most of us are working from home, doing telecommuting. Even our social gathering are conducted online, at least for the phase one of the circuit breaker. These are familiar to most of us, and we have experienced them to varying extents in our daily life today. So I won't elaborate too much on it. But COVID-19 has not only had a greater impact on the morbidity of senior citizens in terms of their health, but also the overall well-being of senior citizens. Let us take a closer look at some of the evidence that I've managed to gather. Right. The first piece is taken from our broad media known as the Today newspaper. Most of us will have read the paper, right? In this case, it's anecdotal evidence and is sharing by this Miss Tricia Tan Hui Shan. She's the co-founder of Activity Kampong. Activity Kampong is basically a social organization that is created to support the engagement of senior citizens, especially during this stay-home period. What she says is that for those of us who have more resources, such as technology access, we can find other options to maintain our well-being at home. But what about other groups who may not have the same opportunities? And these other groups include low-income families, as well as senior who are not technologically savvy. So we can see that from her anecdotal narration, we can see that among groups of senior citizens who are not technologically savvy, their well-being in staying at home could have been affected. A more recent study and a larger scale study is located in Spain. They managed to survey 800 over senior citizens, and they cover a population among the older senior citizens as well as the younger senior citizens. So the age range was between 60 to 80. What they have found is that between the two groups, there are no difference in terms of the well-being. But they do find that senior citizens who have experiential avoidance, right, do experience negative well-being. What this means is that senior citizens who are less willing to try out new things, who are less adventurous, right, would end up being more disabled or more affected by their well-being during this period of COVID-19. The study has also found that gratitude as well as personal resilience are positively related to a personal well-being of senior citizens. What this means is that senior citizens who have a more gratitude outlook, and also you are more resilient in going through difficulties, have a more positive well-being during this period of COVID-19. The other findings that they have is that in terms of family functioning and being married, that means the family is cohesive, that means they have a life partner, right? Their well-being is also on the positive side, and that relates to the social dimension. So this is how, at least in Spain, from this study, we can see how senior citizens' well-being has been impacted by COVID-19. Now, looking beyond Spain, we look at some of the NGOs' report in terms of how COVID-19 has impacted senior well-being. OECD has reported that the pandemic and its social economic consequences are exacerbating factors that contribute to the increased vulnerability of elderly. And together with low financial and digital literacy and possibly declining cognitive ability, right, senior citizens are among the most impacted in the population. Coming back closer to home, about a month ago, right, the SMU has also released a press statement based on some findings that they have in terms of how COVID-19 impacting the senior citizens' well-being. They have identified 3 core areas that needs attention, right? Similar to what has been found in the OECD report, right? They realized that senior citizens and those who are of low socioeconomic status, right, would need financial assistance in order to ride through the assault of COVID-19. The mental health support for those who live alone are also important during this period of COVID-19 because they are socially isolated and they will definitely experience moments of loneliness. They also highlighted the measures are needed to plug the technology gaps and help senior citizens to adapt to the ongoing digital transformation. Now, this relates back to the findings that we have in our earlier study in terms of the 3 dimension. If you look at what I have shared in terms of the anecdotal evidence, the evidence from Spain, from OECD, as well as the press release from SMU, we realize that these 3 dimensions are again appearing when we talk about how COVID-19 is affecting the well-being of senior citizens. Right? The need for financial support has been repeated in at least 2 of the findings, right? And then the need for social support to avoid loneliness, right, has been highlighted. But one thing that we have to bear in mind that not all seniors are the same or equal. Right? Our findings have shown that the senior citizens are actually quite a heterogeneous population. Over here, I have a snapshot of a CNA report that talks about the PSP chief, Tan Cheng Bok. You realize that there was, during the election campaign, he was being featured as someone who is highly savvy with technology, and that helps him to engage better with the younger voters. So among our population of senior citizens, you realize that not all of them are necessarily disadvantaged technologically. Right? So it does shows the need for us to be more targeted in looking at the needs or catering to the needs of the senior citizens in catering to their well-being during these seasons of COVID-19. So when it comes back to the question of digitalizing seniors, is it a boon or a bane to the well-being of senior citizens? Well, it depends. Firstly, it depends on their economic status, right? Whether are they financially independent, whether are they socially connected, do they have family to support them in terms of access to technology. As I highlighted earlier, access is not only in terms of buying devices and data plans, but also someone to learn from, to pick up the digital skills, and perhaps even someone to follow or connect with on social media. On the cultural dimension, is there something on the social media or on the digital platform that attracts them? Here, I'd like to share with you something that during the span of our study that came across. One of my colleagues who was with me on the team that conducted the study, right, actually spent some time with her father-in-law and started to play some very old songs from a different era. At the end of the evening, when they're spending time together, the father-in-law, who was in his late 80s or 90s, asked her, where can I get this device? So it shows that if we are able to curate content that appeals to senior citizens, actually there is a desire among them to want to adopt technology. Also, from some of the studies that I've mentioned earlier, right, personality could also play a part. Right, from the Spanish study, we realized that experiential avoidance will affect seniors' well-being. Right? For someone who is less open or less adventurous to trying out new things, they will naturally be less open to learning new technology. And from our study, we also realized that among senior citizens in Singapore, some of them actually has a fear of technology. So there are things that we have to be mindful of in terms of how we help our senior citizens amidst the rapid digitalization that we are undergoing. Right. We need to embrace the reality that there is no turning back in terms of digital transformation. Right. While it may slow down, it is unlikely to stop. So we need to focus on how we may be more inclusive in helping these senior citizens to adopt digital technology. Basically, in Singapore, what we have seen is that during this period of COVID-19, the government has also launched some initiative to help the senior citizen to overcome the barrier in adopting technology. A case in point is IMDA's Senior Go Digital campaign or initiative, which was launched in May 2020. Right? Based on some figures that I've gotten, right? To date, they have already set up 30 digital community hubs whereby senior citizens can access to learn or pick up digital skill. They have also put in place mobile access for senior citizen scheme, whereby low-income senior citizens can apply and get access to smartphone and data plan. But this is on the official side of things. How about you and me? What are some of the things that each of us can do? I'm sure in the community that we live in, beside our own family or perhaps even our neighbors, there may be some senior citizens who need help to adopt technology or to pick up technological skills. What are we doing in helping them in this case? It could be as simple as showing them how to use a smartphone or even pointing out some content that may be relevant or that may be of interest to them to stir their interest in adopting technology. Right? Beyond that, right, some of us may be in a position to support some senior citizen financially, right, in terms of their adoption of digital technology. And some of us who are the online content creator, like one of our speaker, may also be mindful in creating content, especially catering or appealing to the interests of senior citizens. Right? So what I'm trying to say is that beyond what the government can do, each of us can also play a part in helping the digitalization experience of senior citizens to be more positive and hence enable senior citizens to have better well-being amidst the disruption that they are experiencing brought about by COVID-19 as well as the digital transformation that they are undergoing. With that, I'll come to the end of my presentation and I'll hand the time back to Victor. Thank you.
Thank you for the insightful presentation, Professor Chan. I certainly learned something new.